All right, so because it's 9:30, we're going to jump into things here. So welcome everyone. I am Alyssa Hyde. I'm with SDSU Extension as an intern this spring. We're excited to have you join us for our next February virtual self-care session. Last week, we had SDSU Extension Nutrition Field Specialist discuss make-ahead breakfast ideas to help out in your morning routine. And if you missed this session, you should have received a recording link to the session from email. So for today, Amber Letcher will be sharing and discussing stress management tips. Before I introduce Amber, we would like each of you to put your name, location, and how you heard about this series in the chat box. And then we would also like to know what type of self-care sessions you'd like to see in the future. So if you're comfortable sharing, please type some session topics in the chat box as well. Give just a couple more seconds here to see if some more chats pop up. Awesome. All right. So Amber is the 4-H Youth Development Specialist with SDSU Extension and is based on the Brookings campus. She works with youth and families in South Dakota by providing programming and resources that promote health and wellness with a special emphasis on rural communities. And if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat box those questions, and we're going to get started here. So I'm going to turn the session over to Amber.
All right, thank you so much. So just pulling up my presentation for the day. It's great to see so many of you already this morning. I have a few tips for you today. Our topic is about looking at your current workspace, wherever that might be, if it's at home or if it's in the office at work, and looking at things we can do to make that space more comfortable, more inviting, more cozy, and hopefully that will help a little bit with our productivity as well as our overall general well-being. So this idea of creating a comfortable space to work is not new. It's also gotten a little bit of more press or attention lately. There's been a few books written about creating cozy spaces, and a lot of that comes from different cultures. So this is a common idea kind of around the world. In particular, in a lot of northern or more Scandinavian countries, places where it gets really cold, right? And there's a period of time where there's maybe not a lot of sunlight and people retreat inside to where it is safe and warm. And when they do that, they try to make that space as inviting and comforting as possible. And so I'll share a few of those places with you or some of these concepts. So huga is a Danish term for this idea of creating a really comfortable, cozy space, really focusing on what are the things that we can control and make more inviting about our environment, and also taking advantage of those relationships that are really important to us and can also make our space more comforting and inviting. So there's a lot of books, like I said, some articles written about huga in specifically has become pretty popular, but there are others. So in Germany, for example, we have Gemütlichkeit, which is a similar concept of creating this happy, healthy space, looking at all the things that bring you joy and putting those in your place. And then the last one is from Sweden. So MICE is a similar concept, really trying to eliminate the frustration or any stress that's in your environment and really focus on what about your space makes you comfortable and feeling safe. And as I was reading more about MICE specifically, I found that in the early 90s, there was like a chip company. They were trying to sell snacks, and they came up with this idea of Fredagsmais, which basically translates to Cozy Fridays. And their pitch was, don't go out over the weekend, stay in and relax and have some snacks, be with your family or your friends. And so I feel really comfortable in just declaring every Friday from now on, Cozy Friday. Forget casual Friday, we're just going to be cozy. So even though that was a marketing tool, the ideas are sound and they're really helpful in making our space more comfortable and productive. Now, the other thing we know is that we spend a lot of time at work, right? The average person is going to spend 90,000 hours of their life doing their job. And so if you're spending that amount of time somewhere, then we want to make that space a place where you want to work, where you are excited to be, and where you feel your most productive. When you experience a lot of work stress, we also know that that's associated with a lot of physical and mental challenges. And so anything that we can do to make our space more inviting is beneficial, not just for productivity and getting your work done, but just for you and your overall well-being in general. So the plan for today is to talk about some fairly simple ways to make your space more cozy, more comfortable. And we're going to do that by focusing on our five senses, which is a strategy that's often used also in mindfulness. So if we focus on our senses, that helps us become in tune with our environment and focused on our environment. So that's our plan for the rest of the session. We're going to start out with our sense of smell. So scent is a really powerful type of um, a sense to use to create a more inviting space. So one of those reasons is because your sense of smell is so connected to both your emotion center as well as your memory center of your brain. And so that's why if you're walking around someplace and you just catch a whiff of something, sometimes you'll have an instant flashback, some sort of memory, right? And that's because of that connection with smell. So we can use that to our advantage if we're trying to make our space more comfortable and cozy. What are some smells that you associate with positive memories, right? Because they can also go negative, right? One scent just does not work for me is the smell of vanilla. Because I get really bad motion sickness, and as a kid, my parents would use vanilla scented car fresheners, and so anytime I smell that, it just takes me back to sitting in the back seat of a car and not feeling well. So you will not find a lot of vanilla scented things in my home, but that is a scent that is very pleasing to others. So it really depends on what works for you. I like to look at scents more seasonally. So in the winter, the warmer months, or the colder months, I like cinnamon or like cider scents. And then as it gets a little nicer outside, I'll switch to more floral or citrusy type scents. So there are certain aromas that are considered more universally soothing, things like lavender and jasmine. But again, it's going to be a bit individualized depending on your past experiences or just your general preferences. So smell is a really great option that we can use. If you are sharing your office with someone, then you have to be a little bit more careful, right? Because some people are really sensitive to smell, and so you might not have as much control over that. But if you have the luxury of your own space, then you can definitely try incorporating more scent into your environment. And luckily, there's a lot of ways to do that, right? So candles are just a great option. Lots of cost-effective candles options. And then if you can't have an open flame in your space, Then you can always use a candle warmer to get that same benefit. You're probably all also familiar with the wax melts, and you can plug in these warmers. That's a great way to include that. And then we have essential oils that you can put in warmers as well. So again, lots of options to introduce some scent into your environment. If we move on and look at sound, then again, lots of really easy options, and similar to smell, sound is really associated with a lot of memories. Now, typically, we tend to find sounds that are in nature as the most soothing. So things like a light rain or some waves or wind rustling through trees. Our brain interprets those as non-threatening because they're occurring in nature. And so that reduces our fight or flight response. And so nature sounds are really popular if you're trying to create that nice soothing space. For some of us, though, we like just general music, and we like music with words, right? More contemporary songs. And that can work too, because music, as it's associated with your memories, there might be certain sounds or certain genres of music that you just find more pleasant. We also have options for accessing a lot of this music. So even a quick YouTube search will give you lots of nature sounds that kind of run on a loop, or you can create your own playlists with music that is meaningful to you. One of my favorite things to do is that if I have a task where I'm going to be sitting at my desk for a long period of time, maybe writing something or working on something on the computer, I have a running playlist of songs that are like current. So anytime I hear a new song that I really like, I'll make a mental note and I'll add it to my playlist. And then I'll delete songs that I'm just kind of tired of. So I have like a most current playlist. And I really look forward to that, just being able to sit down and listen to some of my favorite music, favorite songs of the time, and then also get my work done. So um, if you're not um, interested in those nature sounds, or you know music is distracting to you, but you also don't want a completely quiet place, you might check into something like a noise machine, which just offers some white noise in the background. Usually these are used for privacy because it will drown out talking. It makes it more difficult to eavesdrop, right? But it's also useful if you just need a little bit of noise in your environment to, you don't like a completely silent place. So sound, another really great option for us to use. And you have a little bit more control over sound, even if you share an office, right? Because you can always use your earbuds or your headphones and control that a little bit more. Now, touch is probably the sense that you would associate the most with coziness or trying to create a cozy space, because we think of different textiles and textures, fuzzy blankets, fuzzy slippers. Those can make your environment really inviting. And we can use some of those in our office environment as well. I'm going to start at the bottom. I'm going to start with your feet. And we have to be very nice to our feet because there's really nothing more distracting than, a shoe that's rubbing against your foot or pinching your toes. And so looking for those more comfortable shoes is obviously very important. We know that by age 50, you're going to put about 75,000 miles on your feet. That's just a lot of walking. And we also see the pattern of more people using standing desks, just because standing has some health benefits, but it does put more stress on your feet. So we want to be very careful with how we're taking care of our feet. So looking for comfortable shoes. However, if you're like me and you like high heels, I always wear heels, I just like them. Um, there's other things that you can do too if your shoes are not incredibly comfortable. One thing that I do is that I have slippers next to my desk. So if I'm sitting in my office, I might take off my heels and I'll just put my slippers on for a while to give my feet a break. So those are options. Think about your feet. Fuzzy socks are also a really great way to make you feel more comfortable. We can also talk about temperature, and you'll see this pop up a couple more times throughout the presentation. In general, we want an environment that is warm and comfortable, not necessarily hot, because heat is going to make us a little bit sleepy. But we don't want a really cold environment either. That's difficult to work in. And what we're really trying to do is find a regulated temperature. And that is maybe one of the most difficult things to do in an office environment. You don't have a lot of control over the thermostat potentially. And so, what are some other ways to make your environment warm and comfortable to you? So, we can use individualized things like space heaters for one. Another option that I really like are wheat bags or rice bags. And basically, what you can do with these, just really simple bags, but they can be microwaved and they'll maintain their heat for a while. So even if you're at the office, you can put those in the microwave for a couple seconds and then they can rest on your lap, or sometimes I'll put them against the back of my seat. Just gives me that extra layer of warmth. I've also been seeing more reusable thermal packs. So these are a little bit smaller. It's the same idea though. You can microwave them and then they have them for wrapping around your wrist. Some of them will sit across your neck. There's also hand rest ones for if you're typing at your keyboard. So those are really great options too for maintaining some of that temperature and making you more comfortable in your environment. And then the next one has to do with your skin. So during these colder months, we're exposed to the cold, the wind, all of that takes a big toll on our skin, and we're more likely to see dryness, some itchiness. So if you can have moisturizers next to you on hand where you can reapply those frequently in your environment, that also makes you more comfortable in your space. So think about lotions or moisturizers, but also think about lip balms. Keeping those lips nice and moist and saturated will limit the cracking and some of the soreness that can happen. You probably hear the jokes about I have my car lip balm and my office lip balm and my purse lip balm, and we have it a little bit everywhere. And that's not a bad idea because just having it accessible and on hand makes you more comfortable in your environment. And they have some lotions that have the added bonus of also being scented. So if you like that, then that's a way to add another scent into your environment. Moving on to taste, always a popular one, always a favorite, right? Um, so when you're thinking about food or things that you can eat to make yourself feel more comfortable, cozy, really focus on those warm beverages. Hot beverages have multiple benefits. The first one being that heat makes things more flavorful. So your beverage is already going to be just a little bit more tasty if it's warm. And the other thing is that warm beverages are associated with increasing your mood, uplifting your mood. So they did a study where they asked people to either hold a cup of hot coffee or a cup of iced coffee, and then they had them just walk around and interact with each other. And what they found is that the people who had the hot cup of coffee viewed the others in the room as more friendly. They were just in a better mood. And so that is an effect of the warm beverage. So even in the warmer months, you might consider switching off and having a warm cup of coffee or tea. If you don't like those things as much, there's other options. Think of cider, think of hot cocoa. Anything a little warm might have some benefits. Obviously, you can also snack while you're at your office, and that can help boost our energy if we need that. I'm not going to go into a lot of detail. There's many more people who are more qualified to talk about healthy snacks, but the key here is to find some healthy snacks if you're going to be doing that during your workday. My big takeaway here is looking back at the culture of cozy and that emphasis on togetherness and companionship, and using food as a way to build relationships within your workspace is a really great tactic, because anytime that you're eating together, it automatically makes things a little less informal and puts people at ease. So it's difficult right now. We're distanced. We can't share food as easily, but still take advantage of that. Schedule those Zoom coffee dates or those Zoom lunches and share food with the people around you. The biggest predictor of whether people stay in their job or ultimately leave their job has a lot to do with the relationships that they build. So we can use taste as a way to improve those relationships and also make our work environment just more happy and cheerful and comfortable. Next one, last one, is about sight. So take a minute and just look around your environment right now. And what I'd ask you to do is to type in anything in your environment that makes you happy, that makes you feel relaxed, makes you feel peaceful. Go ahead and do that as I'm talking here. Um, a big component of sight for your room and making it more cozy is thinking about your lighting. And there are different ways to manipulate our lighting depending on what sort of task we have at hand or what our mood is. So if you're trying to get something done, if you need a little bit more energy, you should look for lighting that has a bluish or white tone to it. That's going to be more stimulating to you. That's the type of light that comes from your computer monitor. And that's also why it's difficult to get to sleep at night if you're watching TV before you go to bed. It's because of that blue light. So it's stimulating and it has its uses. But if you are feeling overwhelmed or if you need to calm a little bit, then you might want to seek out some of those warmer yellow tones in lighting. And so some people will use more of that blue light in the morning to get things done. And then as their workday is getting done, then they switch over to that warmer yellow light to calm a little bit. The other thing that you can introduce into your environment is another live object. So plants are a really great option. Fake plants look nice, but they don't give you the same benefits as those live plants. Those They purify the air, they boost your productivity, they reduce your stress, partially because they are reminding you of nature. They're bringing the outside in, and just doing that is soothing and relaxing. Now, if you're like me and you don't have a green thumb, taking care of a plant can seem kind of overwhelming. And the last thing you want to do is get a plant and then watch it wither away, right? But there are lots of options for those of us who do not have green thumbs. And even if your office maybe doesn't have a lot of natural lighting, we have plants that do very well in indirect light. So these are just a few examples. Spider plants are great, grow in indirect light. They don't need a lot of water. Swedish ivy is the same. It's nice if you want something kind of trailing. So if you want to put it on a shelf or something. These are two options that I myself have been able to grow. So I'm endorsing them. You can see one in the background there. It does live. These are also really great if you have pets. They are safe. One that is not so pet safe is that philodendron. But I put it here because it's also really easy to grow. It has a nice trailing feature and doesn't take a lot of effort. And there's lots of different varieties. So keep that in mind. There's something about also just having something in your office that can grow and change and you can see it flourish. It's really satisfying. And so those elements are useful in your workspace. And the last one in terms of sight I talk about is having a mantra visible to you. And as I'm looking in the chat box, someone mentioned family photos and artwork. And yes, so those personal touches that are really meaningful to you. Right now, a really popular decorating item is just a wall art with a saying or a word on it. And motivational posters tend to be really popular too. The question becomes, are they really motivational? Are they really inspiring? And the limited research we have says that yes, they can be if they are meaningful to you. So if you have, a word or a phrase that is meaningful to you, it gets you excited, it makes you feel calm and comforted, then put that on your wall, or write it on a sticky note even and post it next to you. Make it your screensaver. Seeing those things can make your space more inviting and more calming just for you personally. I have magnets that have little inspirational quotes on them. You probably can't see those very well. Every day may not be good, but there's good in every day. Nothing can dim the light from within. I've got be patient with yourself. I like to use these just to put them wherever, to hold up things on my refrigerator. I have lots of these. So if you're interested in some magnets, um, I will share my email address in the chat box, and you can send me your office number or your address, and I'm happy to send some of those to you, share some of my positivity. I'm happy to send those to you if they make your space more cozy. Okay, so we've gone through our list. Those are the five senses. The last piece for you here are some bonus items. So if you're thinking about adding some of these elements to your office, but you don't want to do a complete overhaul, then these items are for you, because they're going to incorporate more than one sense into one item. So the first one is one of my favorites, and it is a candle. But instead of having the typical wick, it has a wick that's made out of wood. And what happens is when you light it, it makes a really nice crackling noise. Sounds like a fire burning in a fireplace, or a campfire, a bonfire. So in addition to that lovely smell that your candle is going to give off, it has that soothing sound of a crackling fire. There's also different diffusers that you can get that not only put out scent, but they are also lighted. Maybe it's a color that changes throughout the day, or if you're looking for maybe that warm yellow glow, you can get those. And then the last one, I think these are so cute. They are stress balls. So integrating that sense of touch, but they're also scented. So you can buy these commercially, lavender scented, jasmine scented, but you can also make them yourself. So if you have a balloon and you fill that with flour or rice, and you just put a few drops of essential oil in there, you can make your very own scented stress ball, which has a lot of benefits. So those are my tips for you. I'm happy to answer any questions. Like I said, let me know if you'd like some magnets. And with that, I will turn it back over to Alyssa.
All right. So if I can have Amber open the poll just for taking a couple minutes from each of you, if you have the time to answer the poll here about today's topic and how you liked it and what you thought of it. So take a couple minutes to do that if you could, please. And then I just want to kind of close things out by thanking all of you for joining us today. It was great to have you here, and we hope you learned something that you can take with you from this. Next week, we're going to have Lorna Sabo Wounded Head with us, and she'll be sharing some financial wellness tips for all the attendees. So that is our next self-care series topic for next Friday. And I hope you all have a great day.
And I see somebody asked about those plants. The ones that I shared were spider plants, Swedish ivy, and philodendrons. 3 of the easiest. Like I said, I can grow those myself, so I will endorse them. And I will definitely send out magnets to those of you who are interested. Like I said, the best option, I'm going to put my email address into the chat box so that you can send me a message with your address or your office number, and I can definitely get those to you. Oh, 1 second. Okay, I think that showed up. My email address is really easy. It's just my name, amber.letcher@sdstate.edu. So feel free to send me a message. And like I said, happy to send these to you. they're just a fun item, I think, anywhere to put some positivity in that room. And I hope to see many of you next week. Lorna has some great tips. So have a wonderful, cozy Friday.